Morning, friends. It's Mrs. Fenlison here with Matilda by Roald Dahl, illustrated by Quentin Blake. When we left off, Miss Trunchbull was on her way to come teach their class, and Lavender had the brilliant idea to put a newt in her water to play a prank on her. The weekly test. This chapter is pretty long, so we're only going to read about half of it today. At 2 o'clock sharp, the class assembled, including Miss Honey, who noted that the jug of water and the glass were in their proper place. Because the jug is painted blue, Miss Honey doesn't notice that there's a newt inside it. Then she took up a position standing right at the back. Everyone waited. Suddenly, in marched the gigantic figure of the headmistress in her belted smock and green breeches. "Good afternoon, children," she barked. "Good afternoon, Miss Trunchbull," they chirruped. The headmistress stood before the class, legs apart, hands on hip, glaring at the small boys and girls who sat nervously at their desks in front of her. "Not a very pretty sight," she said. Her expression was one of utter distaste, as though she was looking at something the dog had done in the middle of the floor. "What a bunch of nauseating little warts you are." Everyone had the sense to stay silent. "It makes me vomit," she went on, "to think that I'm going to have to put up with a load of garbage like you in my school for the next 6 years. I can see that I'm going to have to expel as many of you as possible, as soon as possible, to save myself from going round the bend." She's not very nice at all. She paused and snorted several times. It was a curious noise. You can hear the same sort of thing if you walk through a riding stable when the horses are being fed. "I suppose," she went on, "your mothers and fathers tell you you're wonderful. Well, I'm here to tell you the opposite, and you better believe me. Stand up, everybody." They all got quickly to their feet. "Now put your hands out in front of you, and as I walk past, I want you to turn them over so I can see if they're clean on both sides." The Trunchbull began a slow march along the row of desks, inspecting all the hands. All went well until she came to a small boy in the second row. "What's your name?" she barked. "Nigel," the boy said. "Nigel what?" "Nigel Hicks," the boy said. "Nigel Hicks what?" the Trunchbull bellowed. She bellowed so loud she nearly blew the little chap out the window. "That's it," Nigel said, "unless you want my middle names as well." He was a brave little fellow, and one could see that he was trying not to be scared by the Gorgon who towered above him. "I do not want your middle names, you little blister," the Gorgon bellowed. "What is my name?" "Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "Then use it when you address me. Now then, let's try again. What is your name?" "Nigel Hicks, Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "That's better," the Trunchbull said. "Your hands are filthy, Nigel. When did you last wash them?" "Well, let me think," Nigel said. "That's rather difficult to remember exactly. It could have been yesterday, or it could have been the day before." "Oh, Nigel, you need to wash your hands more." The Trunchbull's whole body and face seemed to swell up as though she were being inflated by a bicycle pump. "I knew it!" she bellowed. "I knew it as soon as I saw you, that you are nothing but a piece of filth. What's your father's job, a sewage worker?" "He's a doctor," Nigel said, "and a jolly good one. He says we're all so covered with bugs anyway that a bit of extra dirt never hurts anyone." "I'm glad he's not my doctor," the Trunchbull said. "And why, might I ask, is there a baked bean on the front of your shirt?" "We had them for lunch, Miss Trunchbull." "And you usually put your lunch on the front of your shirt, Nigel? Is that what this famous doctor father of yours has taught you to do?" "Baked beans are hard to eat, Miss Trunchbull. They keep falling off my fork." "You're disgusting," the Trunchbull bellowed. "You're a walking germ factory. I don't wish to see any more of you today. Go and stand in the corner on one leg with your face to the wall." "But Miss Trunchbull—" "Don't argue with me, boy, or I'll make you stand on your head. Now do as you're told." Nigel went. "Now stay where you are, boy, while I test you on your spelling to see if you've learned anything at all this past week. And don't turn around when you talk to me. Keep your nasty little face to the wall. Now then, spell right." "She's really, really awful, isn't she?" "Which one?" Nigel asked. "The thing you do with a pen, or the one that means the opposite of wrong?" He happened to be an unusually bright child, and his mother had worked hard with him at home on spelling and reading. The one with the pen, you little fool. Nigel spelled it correctly, which surprised the Trunchbull. She thought she had given him a very tricky word, one that he wouldn't have yet learned, since they're just in kindergarten, and she was peeved that he had succeeded. Then Nigel said, still balancing on one leg and facing the wall, Miss Honey taught us how to spell a new very long word yesterday. And what word was that? The Trunchbull asked softly. The softer her voice became, the greater the danger. But Nigel wasn't to know this. So I think she might have actually said it more like this. And what word was that? Difficulty, Nigel said. Everyone in the class can spell difficulty now. What nonsense, the Trunchbull said. You're not supposed to learn long words like that until you're at least 8 or 9. And don't try to tell me everybody in this class can spell that word. You are lying to me, Nigel. Test someone, Nigel said, taking an awful chance. Test anyone you like. The Trunchbull's dangerous, glittering eyes roved around the classroom. You, she said, pointing at a tiny, rather daft little girl called Prudence. Spell difficulty. Amazingly, Prudence spelled it correctly and without a moment's hesitation. Can you spell difficulty? Give it a try. The Trunchbull was properly taken aback. She snorted. And I suppose Miss Honey wasted a whole one lesson teaching you to spell that one single word? Oh, no, she didn't, piped Nigel. Miss Honey taught it to us in 3 minutes, so we'll never forget it. She teaches us a lot of words in 3 minutes. And what exactly is this magic method, Miss Honey? Asked the headmistress. I'll show you, piped up the brave Nigel again, coming to Miss Honey's rescue. He really is brave to speak up to Miss Trunchbull like this. Can I put my other foot down and turn around, please, while I show you? You may do neither, snapped the Trunchbull. Stay as you are and show me just the same. All right, said Nigel, wobbling crazily on his one leg. Miss Honey gives us a little song about each word, and we all sing it together, and we learn to spell it in no time. Would you like to hear the song about difficulty? I should be fascinated, the Trunchbull said in a voice dripping with sarcasm. Here it is, Nigel said. Mrs. D, Mrs. I, Mrs. F, F, I, Mrs. C, Mrs. U, Mrs. L, T, Y. That spells difficulty. How perfectly ridiculous, snorted the Trunchbull. Why are all these women married? And anyway, you're not meant to teach poetry when you're teaching spelling. Cut it out in the future, Miss Honey. But it does teach them some of the harder words wonderfully well, Miss Honey murmured. Don't argue with me, Miss Honey, the headmistress thundered. Just do as you're told. I shall now test the class on multiplication tables to see if Miss Honey has taught you anything at all in that direction. The Trunchbull had returned to her place in the front of the class, and her diabolical gaze was moving slowly along the rows of tiny pupils. You, she barked, pointing at a small boy called Rupert in the front row. What is 2 sevens? 16, Rupert answered with foolish abandon. I don't think 2 times 7 is 16. The Trunchbull started advancing in slow, soft-footed upon Rupert in the manner of a tigress stalking a small deer. Rupert suddenly became aware of the danger signals and quickly tried again. It's 18, he cried. 2 sevens are 18, not 16. You ignorant little slug, the Trunchbull bellowed. You witless weed, you empty-headed hamster, you stupid glob of glue. So many mean names. She had now stationed herself directly behind Rupert, and suddenly she extended a hand the size of a tennis racket and grabbed all the hair on Rupert's head in her fist. Rupert had a lot of golden-colored hair. His mother thought it was beautiful to behold and took delight in allowing it to grow extra long. The Trunchbull had a great dislike for long hair on boys, as she had for braids and pigtails on girls, and she was about to show it. She took a firm grip on Rupert's long golden tresses with her giant hand, and then, by raising her muscular right arm, she lifted the helpless boy clean out of his chair and held him aloft. Poor Rupert. And the other kids looked terrified. Rupert yelled. He twisted and squirmed and kicked the air and went on yelling like a stuck pig. Miss Trunchbull bellowed. 2 sevens are 14! 2 sevens are 14. I'm not letting you go until you say it. From the back of the class, Miss Honey cried out, Miss Trunchbull, please let him down. You're hurting him. His hair might come out. And well it might if he doesn't stop wriggling, snorted the Trunchbull. Keep still, you squirming worm. It really was quite an extraordinary sight to see the giant headmistress dangling the small boy high in the air, and the boy spinning and twisting like something on the end of a string and shrieking his head off. Say it, bellowed the Trunchbull. Say 2 7s are 14. Hurry up or I'll start jerking you up and down, and then your hair really will come out and we'll have enough of it to stuff a sofa. Get on with it, boy. Say 2 7s are 14 and I'll let you go. 2 7s are 14! Gasped Rupert, whereupon the Trunchbull, true to her word, opened her hand and quite literally let him go. He was a long way off the ground when she released him, and he plummeted to the earth and hit the floor and bounced like a football. Get up and stop whimpering, the Trunchbull barked. Rupert got up and went back to his desk, massaging his scalp with both hands. The Trunchbull returned to the front of the class. The children sat there hypnotized. None of them had seen anything quite like this before. Seems to me that Miss Trunchbull deserves that newt in the jug. It was splendid entertainment. It was better than a pantomime, but with one big difference. In this room, there was an enormous human bomb, which was liable to explode and blow someone to bits at any moment. The children's eyes were riveted on the headmistress. I don't like small people, she was saying. Small people should never be seen by anybody. They should be kept out of sight in boxes like hairpins and buttons. I cannot for the life of me see why children have to take so long to grow up. I think they do it on purpose. That's where we're going to leave Miss Trunchbull, at the front of the class with the newt in the jug and the children in the class. I hope they'll be okay. We'll check on them again soon. Bye, friends.